Welcome back to We Are Nacogdoches. It's the show where we get to visit with people, hear about the places and things going on in town that make Nacogdoches special. I'm Kelly Augustine and I work at the Nacogdoches County Chamber of Commerce. Today I have the pleasure of welcoming Stephen Lantis from Burke to join us on today's show. Stephen, you and I have had a quick conversation about a lot of things, including personal and self-care, things that are very important to overall health, I believe, in a person. And I think you have some good things to say about that. But before we get into that subject, let's hear a little more about you and what you do in our area.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm Clinical Director for Children and Adolescent Services at Burke, which means I oversee a lot of Burke's specialty programs for kids and teens. One of the biggest of which that I'm working on right now is a trauma grant that is focused on providing trauma services and recovery services for kids and teens who've experienced difficult things in their lives. Um, in addition to that, we're reaching out into the schools to help provide some trauma training and to see how we can be more helpful to the school districts in those ways. So I do a lot of things overseeing and supervising the children's programs in different parts.
That's interesting. And what area of East Texas do you cover?
So we cover 11 counties in East Texas. So from Houston to the border, to the east side, Houston to Newton County, and all the way down to San Jacinto County as well. So we cover a wide range of people with a lot of rural mental health needs that we work with.
Interesting. And I know you have a great presence here in Nacogdoches County.
Yeah.
Well, back to self care. It's a kind of trendy term, it's been around, and I hear folks using it jokingly, other ways. So, what's your definition of self care?
Yeah, self-care is really a big thing these days. I mean, a lot of folks, a lot of TikTokers provide self-care, advice and things. But I think it's really important to take self-care very seriously. Self-care is the preparation for and the action of doing things to balance your well-being. Maybe it's an emotional self-care effort or it's a physical self-care effort, but even things like financial and emotional self-care are very important.
That makes sense to me. Diet, exercise, whatever you're doing with your body, it can have an
Yeah.
impact, good and bad. So I guess you have to watch kind of those things. What is it the same for everyone, or is there
Well,
a
it's certainly not the same for everyone. There
okay?
are a few things because we're all embodied people, right? We all have physical health needs. And there are a few things that we could say are typical self care items: exercise, diet. Those would certainly be the ones we would say are typical. But it's really important for people to think about more in depth what really helps them feel good, what really helps them settle emotionally and be able to handle the stressors that they experience on a day-to-day basis. So for me, it's a spin bike. For you, maybe it's a treadmill, right? For me, it's meditation. For you, maybe it's prayer or going to church on the regular basis or, those kinds of things. For a lot of SFA students, I think taking a walk in the beautiful woods and gardens that adjoin campus are a fabulous thing to do. In fact, when I was working here in the city at the clinic here, I would frequently come down and walk the labyrinth on my lunch hour just across the road from campus. So there are so many things that people can do to really personalize their own experience of self-care and make it really fill their needs.
So I've also walked the labyrinth. It is
It's wonderful.
pretty cool. You said day to day. I think when I think of self care, I think, well, maybe there's moments, seasons, times in life where I need to focus on self care, but you kind of made it sound like it's something we should think about daily.
I do think it is something we should think about daily because we're stressed every day. People experience a lot of different kinds of stressors in their lives, and it's really important that they pay attention to how they're experiencing their week as they go through. So today, I might need a few more minutes of meditation. Tomorrow, maybe I stop a little bit early. Today, I might need to not call that person who really puts me in a bad mood. I could do that tomorrow and talk with them. Really important that we do think about what we're doing every day to make sure that we're well balanced, that we are feeling good about our experience of the week.
What about rest? I know you and I talked a little bit about that.
Hmm.
The definition of rest, it can be more than how much sleep I get at night, which is important. But let's talk about rest for a
Yeah.
minute.
So it's vital that we do think about how much sleep we get, but we need to move beyond that a little bit, right? Sometimes people feel like just sitting on their patio and watching the trees blow in the wind can be a real restful experience. Others might feel a little anxious about the wind blowing and wonder what storm is coming into East Texas next, right? So it is helpful for us to decide what is restful. Our cell phones are not restful places for us. We might think that playing a game over and over and over again is a restful experience, but actually, our cell phones really send a lot of signals off in our brain that really move us away from rest and towards anxiety. So, using your cell phone is not the best mode for restfulness. It's really maybe reading or sitting down with a warm cup of tea or having a quiet conversation with a loved one that can be really restful and rejuvenating.
I like that word rejuvenating because when I think of rest for me, it's how am I recharging my battery
Yes.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, those are certainly things that we can evaluate and think about for ourselves. But when would you suggest that someone look for something more, maybe help from a professional?
It's really vital that people consider how they're doing in their relationships and their daily activities. If they're really struggling, if they're feeling a depressed mood or very anxious or worrisome for maybe 2 weeks or more, that would be a signal for sure. If their appetite changes in a significant way, maybe they're not eating as much, maybe they don't feel like eating today, that would be a marker that would say maybe we should talk to someone. Another is when they lose interest in hobbies that they've always had. Um, if they've decided that those self-care things that they really enjoyed doing for the last several months just aren't worth doing, that would be a time to really reach out to professionals to get assistance in helping assess what's going on and maybe making a treatment plan to really work on what's going on for them.
That's great advice. I think too, as we move through life, we would find different activities, different things that would give us that joy, that rejuvenation too. So it's probably kind of fun to experiment.
It is. Experimenting is really, really helpful because it does tell you, is this meeting my emotional needs right now? You know, is this helping me to feel better about my stress right now? And then that may be something they incorporate into their self care plan. I think it's important that people have a plan and a method by which they continue to work on self care all the time.
Well, in addition to walking our gorgeous trails and beautiful gardens, what are some other things you've noticed about Nacogdoches community that could be fun for someone?
So I definitely think that there are a lot of great places around here to bicycle, to cycle. There are a lot of wonderful books to read at the library, and I think that's a really great asset to the community. I've been there many times, not only for work, but also for my own enjoyment. And the community activities that they have going on at the library can really bring people into social groups to share about things that they like and have in common.
Oh, that's good. And we've actually done a show on our public library.
Wonderful.
In addition to the resources they have there, they do a lot of neat public events that bring our community together. What about that? What about friends and families? I mean, could you do something with groups?
Absolutely. Social relationships are vital to our mental health and well being. We want to make sure that we're having positive experiences with those who we are related to, but also with those who we choose to make our family, right? Those people that are involved in different clubs or different churches or different activities that they might be involved in the community. We want to put ourselves in a place where we feel good around people that we feel good around. There are times when we have to be around those who are stressful, like holidays. Thanksgiving is coming up, but holidays in general can be a stressful time. So making sure we put ourselves in communities of people who brighten our day, who really help to fill our cup, so to speak, can really help us in these times.
You know, a good friend of mine gave me a good piece of advice when they said you can say no to things. So, yes, there are going to be situations that you will endure, but there are times also when you have a choice.
Let me be clear, boundaries is a part of a self-care plan. Having good boundaries and saying no is very helpful.
Well, I really appreciate you being on the show today. What if someone wanted more information about what we're talking about or about Burke?
Absolutely. So I think that anyone who wanted more information about Burke or mental health needs in our area could definitely look up the myburke.org website, myburke.org, and find out our phone numbers, whether they needed intake, whether they needed information, they needed treatment. They could call any of those numbers and get set up with the clinic that could help them. But they can also find good information on our Facebook page as we put out regular posts about stress and well-being as well.
That's great, Stephen. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
And thank you for joining us on We Are Nacogdoches. It's a wonderful day. Get out there and see our town.
This program is brought to you by the Department of Mass Communication at Stephen F. Austin State University, in association with the Nacogdoches County Chamber of Commerce, and with special thanks to the City of Nacogdoches.